Hello and welcome back to my channel, Mostly Florals. In today's video, I'll be showing you how to illustrate fun and easy faces in Procreate. This is such a light-hearted and enjoyable illustration tutorial. We'll be experimenting with different skin tones, accessories, and hair colors. It's a great exercise for both beginners and intermediate artists who want to practice facial features in a simple and fun way. So let's get started. For today's illustration, I'll be using a canvas size of 6000 pixels by 4500 pixels. If you'd like to use the same color palette as mine, check the description box below for the Gumroad link. As for the brushes, I'll be using the Studio Pen, which can be found under the inking section in Procreate's classic library for the entire illustration. To add blush and facial details, I'll be using the gouache brush under the painting tab. Both of these brushes are free default Procreate brushes. Now let's get started. I'm naming my canvas Faces in Procreate, and here it is. So let's get started with drawing some easy and fun faces. I'll go to the wrench icon, tap on Canvas, Drawing Guide, Edit Drawing Guide, and then Symmetry. I can always move the symmetry line any way like this. So I'm going to position it right in here because this is where I'll start drawing the first set of faces. I'm planning to draw 6 in total, so I'll place it here and then tap Done. Now I'll use the Studio Pen for this illustration. It's very free-flowing and easy to use. I'll start with some shades that work well for skin tones. I'll go with this one in here. And here I'll draw my first face shape. It's more of a square, kind of like a unique shaped face. Then I'll drag and drop the color to fill it in. Now I'm just going to go over the edges to make it sharper and a bit neater. And that's it. That's my first face shape done. Next, I'll draw my second face right over here. This time using a slightly lighter shade from the same color family. This one I'll keep a bit more triangular and fill in the color. And once again, I'll go over the edges to reshape and clean it up so the face looks neater and nice, just like that. So that's my second face done as well. Now I'm going to keep all the faces on layer 1, going back to the wrench icon, edit drawing guide. I'll move the symmetry line to the center of the canvas so I can draw the next set of faces and tap Done. I'll start with a slightly darker brown tone and draw a stout oval shaped face like this. And trace over the lines to make the edges sharper. Drag and drop the color to fill it in, and I will switch to the eraser tool to clean up the edges so they look sharper and neater. Next, I'll go to the color wheel, pick a darker brown shade and draw a rectangular, almost cylindrical shaped face. And once again, I'll fill the color by dragging and dropping, and then refine the shape with the pen and use the eraser tool as well to clean up the edges, just like this. I'm also using the eraser to give this face a sharper jawline, so I'll cut it off here, shape it out, and make the jaw very defined, which gives the face a sharper look. You can always switch between the pen and eraser to refine the edges and make small tweaks until you get the exact shape you want. Now I'll go back to the wrench icon, edit drawing guide, symmetry, and move the symmetry line to the end of the canvas. This is where I'll be drawing the final set of faces. Now using the selection tool, I'll select the second set of face layers, swipe 3 fingers, choose cut and paste, and move it slightly to the center so I have enough space to draw my last set. Next, I'll pick a light pinkish tone and draw my 5th face here, so it's more of a long oval shaped face. And then I'll drag and drop the color in to fill it in like this. Next, using a lighter version of the same shade, I want to create a very light colored face. I'll draw a kind of chubby face, keeping the top of the head narrower and the cheeks fuller. I'll use the pen to fill it in and shape it, but since this color is barely visible, I'll switch to a slightly darker tone, and with this new shade, I'll fill it in again like this. Now it looks good. Still, it's lighter than the pink face we painted earlier. I'll also add a little shape under the chin to make it look chubbier, almost like a second chin, and then refine the edges to enhance that effect. I'm quite happy with how everything looks now. So far, all the flat face shapes are painted, so I'll merge them together in one layer. Then I'll tap the plus icon, create a new layer, and move it below layer 1. This is where I'll be drawing the facial features. Let's get started with the first one. So now we need to set up our drawing guide. Go to layers and make sure that layer 2 has the drawing assistant turned on. I'll start with the ears. For the first shape, I'm keeping them slightly curved and shaped to match the face. Next, for the top face, I'll tap again to select the color and stay on the same layer and paint triangular shaped ears. It's always nice to mix up the ear shapes for variety. Moving the drawing guide to the middle set of faces and tapping done here, I will then pick this dark brown shade and draw long rectangular ears, just close the ends and fill in the color. And then for the next face, I'll select the color again and add tiny little ears, small and simple but fitting for this one. Then I'll shift the guide back to the first set of faces, and for this one I'm drawing thin long ears and filling them in. Finally, for the top square face, I'll choose the shade once more and draw big ears, close the ends and drag and drop the color to fill in. And that's it, the ears for all the faces are done. So now I'll tap the plus icon and create a new layer on top of the faces layer. This will be for the facial features, so let's start with the eyes. I'll begin with this face since the symmetry line runs right through it. I'm going with some lazy eyes with a white background. After that, I'll alpha lock the layer and use black to fill in the eyeballs, just like this. So since this is going to be lazy, relaxed face, I'm going to select the skin tone here, pick a slightly darker shade, and un-alpha lock the layer to paint the nose. I'm drawing it a little wider and then filling in the color. Maybe I should make it a little more wider and then fill in the color. So if you feel like your color doesn't contrast enough, you can always tap and hold to select it and then go back to the color wheel and pick a tone that stands out more. So I will go with maybe this shade and drag and drop. So now it looks better. Next, for the mouth, I'll switch to a tone that's somewhere between orange and pink, red, and just draw a simple straight line for a subtle expression like this. Now I'll select the skin tone again, choose a slightly darker shade from the same color family, and paint a few freckles across the face. I'm using the symmetry guide for most features, but it's not a must. You can go a bit freehand if you like. I'll also add a few fine facial lines to show a bit of age and character. So I'm adding something on the chin here. Next, I'll switch to this dark brown shade and tap the plus icon again to create a new layer to paint the hair. And starting with the hairline, I'll sketch out the front shape, and once I'm happy with it, I will fill in the rest of the head. So I'm trying to keep this face kind of like early 30s to mid 40s look. So now I have to just drag and drop the color to fill it in. So to make it more interesting, I can also add a few hair strands and strokes just here and there to give the character some texture and fullness. Since this is a separate layer, you can always tweak it later if needed. Now it looks good, and moving on to the eyebrows, I'm using the same color and drawing long natural looking shapes and filling it in, then adding a few strands here and there, and using a slightly darker shade, I'll add a few shadow lines to give more depth. Same for the hair as well. That looks great, really full and expressive. I'm happy with how this face turned out. So once you're really satisfied, you can move on to the next. You can always add details as much as you like and alter it the way you prefer. Now moving to this face below, going back to the layer where I drew the eyes before, I'm going to select white and draw some oval shaped vertical eyes like this, trying to keep a neat oval shape in here. Then I'll select this greenish shade from the color wheel and draw the iris like this. And next, selecting the skin tone and choosing a slightly darker tone, I will now draw the nose and fill in the color. Just drag and drop. I think I'll just shape the nose a bit like this to make it look sharper. It suits the shape of the face, I think. Yes. Then selecting a slightly orangey tone, I'm going to draw some small lips for this face. You can always adjust the smile by defining the lips this way. So I think I'll just add a little smile, just a subtle one. Now I'll alpha lock the layer, reduce the brush size, and using a slightly darker tone to draw a small line separating the lips. Then using a slightly pink tone and the default gouache brush from Procreate, reducing the opacity and the brush size, I will add some color to the cheeks and to the chin as well, just to show some light makeup, a little blush. Maybe I'll also add a touch on the eyelids. And if you feel like the facial expression is changing and it's something that you don't like, then you can always just go back and adjust it. So here I'm just adding a little bit of color on the creases like this, and some on the ears. Just a little bit of color because the face looks too pale. You can always use the blend tool to soften or blend any details if you like. And once you're happy with that, I'm going to start painting the rest of the facial features. Now I'll go to the hair layer And here I'll pick an interesting color suitable for this face. For the hair, a peachy pink kind of shade I'm going with. So I will start drawing the front hairline like this, trying to create a bang like. I want an interesting hairstyle for this one. So, and then I'll draw the top part as well like this, and I'll fill it in. Now I'll add a bun at the top, filling that as well. So that's a simple bun hairstyle. Next, I'll add a few strands of hair here and there to give it a messy kind of look. I want this face to have a modern, slightly messy vibe, kind of like a working woman. I'll add a few loose strands too to make it look natural and stylish. It's always fun to draw interesting faces with unique features, and that's how I picture this character. I think I should create a back layer as well for the hair, so creating a new layer and bringing it all the way to the bottom. I'll add a back portion like this to show that the bun is more of a half bun. I'll just add some hair at the back and then closing the ends so I can drag and drop the color to fill it in. Then I'll fill any small gaps and tweak a few bits here and there just to make it look complete. Okay, now that looks good. Just a little bit over here. Okay, so now selecting a slightly darker tone for the eyebrows from the same color family. Just simple ones that aren't fully visible but still need to be there since the bangs don't completely cover them. So I'm drawing thin eyebrows. And that looks nice. Now using the same tone, I'll add a few shadows here and there on the hair. The bun in here. And also the back hair layer like this. Then selecting a golden tone, I think I'll add some accessories, maybe some earrings like this to make this character look fashionable. I'll add snakebite earring studs at the top and maybe a nose ring to give her a more funky modern look. Adding a gold nose ring like this, it looks so pretty and really completes the face. I think I'll just thicken this line a little bit like this, and now that looks great. Now going to the drawing guide once again, I'll move the symmetry line to the middle set of faces, and I'll start with the small face. Using white, I'll draw two small eyes like this. Then using black, I'll add two small dots in the center for a starry face. Next, selecting the skin tone and choosing a light shade, I'll draw a stubby little nose like this, suitable for this small, stout face. Then going to the facial feature layer, I'll draw a small round mouth using black, something that looks shocked or surprised. Next, selecting a light shade and using the gouache brush, I'm adding a long blushy line to give some soft shadows, and I'll do the same on the ears as well, just a little bit of color to brighten the face. Okay, it looks good now. Also a little bit of shadow on the chin area like this, and it looks good now. Selecting a dark brown shade and selecting the studio pen, I'll draw a stubble-like beard effect, just a soft stubble across the face like this. You can either use the symmetry line or turn it off and draw freehand. I'm keeping it on since it makes things so much easier for me. Once I'm happy with the stubble, I'll move on to the eyebrows, just simple strokes like this, 2 short lines. Next, using an orange shade, I'll draw a hat on this head on a separate layer. Since this is going to be a no hair face, I prefer to add a hat instead. So just outlining a rectangular kind of shape like this, and then filling in the color. Using a darker shade like this red tone, I'll draw the top part of the hat, close it, and then fill it in. And now I'll add a little hanging part on the same layer and fill it in. Then using the orange shade, I'll add a small ball at the tip of the hat. Now I'll alpha lock the first part of the hat and draw some simple lines to create that woven texture. I always prefer keeping things on separate layers. This way, once you are done with an illustration, you can merge it later and have a complete object. Next, using a dark maroon shade, I'll add some little cross stitches on the hat like this to make it look patched and old. This gives a fun, worn out look like a little robber or thief character. Just a few simple strokes on the hat, and that's it. So now going back to this face we did earlier, I think I'll change the hair color to this pink shade. I tried a couple of options and this is the one I'm sticking with. Then going to the back hair layer, I'll make it a little bolder and darker and choose an even darker shade for the shadowed eyebrows like this. This is exactly why I prefer to keep everything on separate layers. Now on this dark brown face, I'm going to start with white eyes and I'm keeping them sharp like this. I'll just neaten the shape a bit and then using black I will draw the eyeballs in the center to give a more stern kind of expression, a more sharper look. Next, selecting the dark brown base and choosing a slightly lighter tone, I'll draw a sharp nose. I'm trying a different shape that suits this face. I want a sharp, well-defined nose for this well-toned look. And this looks good. Now just filling it in. Now choosing a light pink peachy shade. I will draw the lips, starting with a sharp bordered lip line, very well defined again. And then now I'll shape out the edges like this. Then using a slightly darker shade, I'll alpha lock the lip layer and draw a line to separate the lips. This gives them a more complete realistic look. And now decreasing my brush tip size, I can add a few small lines on the lips to bring in more detail. And now using the same nose color, I'll add a few touches on the ears as well. And next, selecting a darker shade, I'll go with a very dark brown, black kind of shade. I'll start outlining the hair. I'm going for a curly hair look, so I'll just outline it like that and then drop the color to fill it in. And then I'm going to fill any small gaps to create a nice full curly blob of hair on the head. Now I will go around this blob of hair to redefine the curls. I really enjoy drawing this character because I love creating contrast with deep dark hair tones. Now I'll move on to the beard. I'll start with sharp lines along both jaws like this, then fill them in with color. I can always refine it later by adding some shapes. So I'm just trying to create a sharper, more defined beard, something that looks well groomed. I'm adding a few extra details like this, and even on the chin like this. Maybe I'll just go again to the cheeks and make this design look a bit sharper. And now I will alpha lock this layer, and using a lighter tone, I will add a few lines on the beard to show some subtle shadows. And I'm doing the same for the hair on the head, adding a few curls. And then using a light gray shade, I'll give it a bit of shine to make the curls stand out. And I'll also add a few gray lines on the beard to match. Next, using the same dark black-brown color, I'll draw some well-defined eyebrows for this character, thick and bold like this. And then using the same color, I will add a few extra lines on the eyebrows to make them look even bushier. And this face now looks so complete right now, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. So once again, going to the drawing guide, I'm moving it to the last set of faces and we are almost done. I'll start off with this face. Using white, I'm drawing thin long eyes, more like an Asian figure, and filling them in. Now I'll just go over the borders to make them neater and smoother. Once I'm happy with how it looks, I'll alpha lock that layer and draw black eyeballs. I'm making this one look slightly to the side, some side eyes. Next, selecting a slightly darker tone from the skin tone palette, I'm going to draw a pointy nose facing the same direction as the eyes. I'll fill it with color and then go over the edges to define it and make it neater. Now selecting a red tone, I'll draw a thin, long lips for this face and fill in the color. As always, I can go around the borders to give it a bit more expression. Then using a lighter pink tone, I'll draw a line in the center to define the lips, just like this. Then using the gouache brush and using a peach tone, I'll add a touch of color on the cheeks, nothing too obvious for this face, just a light shade. I'll also add some color on top of the eyelids, a little bit under the chin, and a few freckles using the studio pen on the cheeks. I'm also adding some lines on the ears and under the lips. These little lines and details definitely make a difference. I'll add a few lines at the corner of the lips to show some expression, more freckles on the nose, and a few under the eyes. Now using black, I'll draw a hairline like this, and fill in the hair. And then I'll go over the edges to fill any gaps and make the hair look neat and flat, giving that silky texture. You can always go back and adjust for more definition. And I think I'll keep the hairline slightly off center instead of in the middle, so it gives a nice side parting. I'll just draw and fill it in like this. I think it should be more sideways, so I'm going to repeat that once again and a little bit more. Okay, so that looks nice. Now I'll use the selection tool, cut off the hair part and reposition it on the head slightly higher and fit in properly so there's space to draw the eyebrows. And going back to the back hair layer, I'll draw long silky black hair to show that she has straight sleek hair, and I'll close the ends so I can drag and drop the color and fill it in like this. So that looks good. Now I'll just go over it again to make it a bit neater on both sides. Now moving on to the top hair layer again, I'll add a few lines to show individual strands here and there and fill in any small gaps to make it look more complete. Just small strokes here and there to make the hair look complete and nice and more suitable hairstyle. Little details, little strands of hair makes a lot of difference and definitely makes the character pretty and nice. So once I'm done with that, I think I should add some accessories, something contrasting. So I think I will go with some dangling earrings for this. Selecting this green shade, I'm adding some lovely dangling earrings. I'm using green to give it a nice contrasting and fashionable look. I'm just drawing some circles and filling them in and keeping them long so they look like long dangling earrings. And I'm not using the symmetry for this because I don't want them to look perfectly even. I want them positioned slightly differently since the eyes are looking sideways. It only makes sense. So I'm drawing them like this. But of course, if you want to use the symmetry option, you can. And yeah, that looks good. And now I'm adding some hair accessories as well. Just a simple clip on the head using the same green color. You can do this in the accessories layer so everything stays separate. I'm also adding another little heart-shaped clip like this. And next I'm drawing simple long joint eyebrows, just a stroke. And then using a slightly gray tone, I'm adding a thin line along the hair parting. And now this face looks complete and I'm really happy with this. And let's move on to the last one. So here I am working on my last phase, which is a chubby one. Once again, I'm selecting white and in the facial features layer, I'm drawing round eyes, just keeping the eyes nice and round. It need not be perfect. And then I'll select black and draw centered eyeballs. And now choosing the skin tone and picking a slightly darker shade, I'll add a chubby nose and fill it in. And then using a peachy tone for the mouth, I'm keeping it slightly open and filling it in like this. Then I'll alpha lock this layer, select a dark red shade and paint a small tongue inside like this. And now selecting white, I'll draw a few teeth since the mouth is open. You can hold the pen to position them properly like this. Then using the same color as the nose, I'll add a few details on the ears like this. And then just some gentle touches to make the face look more lively and expressive. Now going back to the color wheel and selecting this burnt orange shade, I'll start outlining the hairline on the hair layer like this, and then draw the top part with a little parting in the center, and then fill it in. As for the braids, I'm going to add some scallop shapes along the sides like this. You can also use small circles if you prefer. I'm sticking with scallops. And at the end, I'll make it look like the hair is tied. Now I'll drag and drop the color to fill it in, and then make sure to color any small gaps. Next, I'll go over the outlines again to make sure the braids look neat and aligned. I'm also thickening the top of the head area slightly and adding a few cute details on top. Plus some loose hair strands here and there to give it a slightly messy, natural look, like a little schoolgirl with red hair. That looks nice now. I'll also add a few extra strands on top and in the front to make it look softer and more natural. Now I'll add eyebrows using the same hair color, just drawing small bean-shaped brows and filling them in. Then using a lighter tone and alpha locking the eyebrow layer, I'll add some soft lines to create shadows. And I'll also add a few strokes on the hair to show highlights and lighting. Next, in a new layer with Drawing Assist, I'm adding perfect circles for glossers. Since symmetry is on, I can just draw one circle and it will be duplicated on the other side. Make sure it's set to circle. And then I'll go over the outline to make it thicker and neater. Once that's done, I will add a little bridge in the center and small side connectors. Then I'll duplicate this layer, and on the bottom one, I'll fill it with light blue shade and then reduce the opacity of this layer to around 45%. And merge both the layers so the top layer is still darker. Now using white, I'll add a few lines on the glass area to show reflections. Now I'll add a few birthmarks or freckles here and there on the face using the same color as the nose. Next, with yellow, I'll draw a tiny flower hair clip, just a cute one. And add a white center to the flower. Finally, I'll add a simple stud on both ears using the same yellow. So that's the final look of our faces. Let's take a look at all the faces now. Just a little bit of adjustment in here using the selection tool. I'm going to select this dark toned face. Swipe 3 fingers, choose cut and paste, and then slightly reduce the size. I'll turn off snapping and magnetics and position it right under the top face. So this is the final illustration, guys. All the 6 fun faces that I have illustrated. I really enjoyed creating these, and I hope you enjoyed watching as well. If you followed along, make sure to tag me at mostly.floral so I can see your work. I'll be more than happy to share it in my highlights. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more Procreate tutorials. I'll see you guys in another video. Until then, happy creating!